Hey everyone, Isaac the Orthodox Lunatic here. Christ is born, glorify him. So, I hope everyone had a very good new calendar feast of the Nativity. Thinking about going down to the Coptic church on the south side of Greenville and celebrating Nativity with the Egyptian Monophysite Papists. Coptic Christians. But, that's a decision that I'll make later depending on what my schedule is going to be. So, I do have an update coming that I think I'm probably going to make tomorrow. There's some massive changes that I've made in my life, and that is kind of going off the To Infinity and Beyond video that I made a little while ago, but is also I've made some changes to how I'm going to do things and what I'm going to be doing. I'm also going to be living on my own fairly soon. So that's going to impact everything significantly. You should see a lot more content coming from this channel. I've said repeatedly, hey, I'm going to make more videos. I'm going to make more videos, and never ended up doing it, but I actually have a plan of things that I want to do now. So I wanted to talk about skeptics and atheists online and the kind of agnostic people that I tend to meet on a regular basis, and a lot of them tend to be my age. They tend to be younger, millennials, not so much the older people. They seem to be working in a traditional, keeping with what their family does as far as religion and spirituality, but you don't have to go very far to meet someone who is an atheist or a skeptic or an agnostic, and especially online on Facebook. There's a lot of discussion forums, theistic debates, debates about religious principles, about theology, about whether or not God exists. There's a group on Facebook called Does God Exist? And you can easily find on YouTube, there are many different YouTubers who talk about religion, and they debate about religion from sort of a theistic, mystical perspective, and they also talk about science and different apologetics theories like the cosmological, teleological, very basic ones like that are very old, and they try to kind of expound upon it. And you also have the atheists and the skeptics and the agnostics that sort of argue against God, that argue against especially Abrahamic religions. And then you have another group, I guess, that's sort of associated with the same kind of people. Like they don't really hold an active belief in a supreme deity. And a number of them are pagan. They believe in some sort of spirituality of something that is greater, is essentially a higher power than what we can necessarily comprehend in the physical world, although they don't seem to exclude the possibility that those beings are maybe a part of the physical world. But you get what I'm saying. There's within YouTube, there's a lot of different kinds of discussions of religious ideologies, of spiritual ideologies, and there's a lot of back and forth that goes on. And what I have a difficult time with here is a lot of these skeptics of YouTube and atheists that come around and argue on different videos, and a lot of them do kind of spam and say some stuff that is really not necessary, in my opinion. A lot of their arguments are actually very, very poor. Now, I am a big believer in the First Amendment. I am a big believer in the free exchange of ideas. Now, I'm not a constitutionalist. I disagree with probably 20% of the Constitution as it stands now. But for the most part, I like a lot of things that are in the Constitution, and I especially like the free exchange of ideas. And I do not like religious institutions, especially the very conservative ones that almost bar their members from looking into anything different. I'm in Greenville in South Carolina. I'm not too far away from Bob Jones University, and Bob Jones University is notoriously known for the Grace Report scandal and the abuse. But having known quite a few people that have gone there, you can get banned, you can get expelled, if you attend a church that is not in their approved directory or that isn't specifically following their theological ideas. So I don't like that. I like the free exchange of ideas and people being able to talk about their ideas and have intelligent conversations about religion, about spirituality, about science, and about politics. Different worldviews and such that impact how you're going to be living your life and who you're going to be voting for, and ultimately how you're going to be associating with other people. What I find is, like I said, I like intelligent conversations. I like intelligent discourse. And a lot of these skeptics online, many of them are millennials, they're not all that intelligent with their arguments. They're not, their thoughts and their opinions, they're not all that well thought out. They're really not. Because all they really have at the end of the day is they have this one guy who is a pretty overweight atheist and kind of obnoxious at times. Of course, I'm talking about TJ, the Amazing Atheist. They have him, and they have, maybe a few websites that do iffy arguments about religion. But beyond that, the vast majority of them don't actually have very much to say that's all that intelligent. All they really have is bashing people and being rude and mean and not really engaging in any kind of intelligent discourse. Now, like I said, I'm fine with intelligent discourse. I have engaged in intelligent discourse with skeptics and non-religious people, and there are a number of people who are non-religious and skeptics who have contacted me on YouTube before in messages, and they have been very cordial, they have been respectful, they have been kind, and I have no problem with that at all. Like I said, I like the free exchange of ideas, but these people that come on YouTube and come on different websites and they attack you and they have absolutely no arguments from, anything that they have to say at all. And I understand that the existence of God is, something that does sort of need to be proven, and you can't really provide proof that something's not true. All you can do is show that, hey, there's no proof that A is true, therefore it must be false. That's generally the argument from atheists, and I kind of agree with them. I do think that the burden of proof as far as proving something exists does fall on the hands of religious people. But the thing is that when many of these religious people on YouTube and in different debate forums provide arguments for what they're saying, a lot of the atheists and people, that they don't have very much to say in response, or they have very fallacious things to say in response. There is numerous amounts of evidence that Christ actually existed and was crucified. The historians that say he was not are pretty much crackpot historians, and I find that many of them ignore a lot of historic manuscripts and patristic letters from the early church and records from the Roman government at the time. You don't even have to believe in Christianity to believe that Jesus Christ had followers and was crucified and then his followers were subsequently killed. There's a lot of historical data on that stuff, but to say that none of that ever happened at all is completely ridiculous. And you have these people who, they haven't even read The Origin of Species, yet they, automatically believe in evolution because it's sort of a secular, I say that loosely, secular idea. I don't actually think it's all that secular. They've never read Origin of Species. They've never read, The God Delusion by Richard Dawkins. Oh, and by the way, I've read both of those. How about that for you? I've listened to numerous lectures by Richard Dawkins. I've listened to Christopher Hitchens and George Carlin and quite a few atheist and skeptic people on YouTube that do engage in intelligent discourse. But I would imagine many of them would probably be pleasant people to talk to. Those who are left, because obviously neither Carlin nor Hitchens are still alive, unfortunately. But these people that come out of the woodwork and just verbally flagellate people, and they have virtually nothing on their side. They don't have any good arguments or any good rebuttals to anything about religion. I like it when people challenge me in my ideas. I don't like it when somebody says, well, you're believing in a fairy tale, but, I'm like, well, here, let's take a look at the evidence. And they're like, oh, no, I don't want to waste my time. Hang on a second. What if, a theistic person, religious person came to you and they were like, well, evolution is a childhood fairy tale because, nothing can't come from nothing, and, life has to come from other life, and all that. And you're like, well, hey, let's crack a book, let's take a look at the evidence for evolution and the Big Bang and science and all that other kind of stuff. And they're like, oh, no, I don't want to waste my time. It's the same thing both ways. It's very hypocritical. You have these atheists who are, or skeptics, who they blindly believe what science says right now, when science could say something completely different 1,000 years from now, which I'm sure it will, because mankind's knowledge is changing, and we're getting more knowledge, and we are figuring more things out over time. they will blindly believe all of that without even taking a look at the data. They'll just believe what some skeptic scientists say, which many of them aren't even all that credible. Let's just ignore the fact that a massive amount of scientists were part of the Catholic Church. You have so many geniuses who were in the Roman Catholic Church, or they were, religious. Albert Einstein said science without religion is lame, and religion without science is blind. Nikola Tesla, his father was a Serbian Orthodox priest. Nikola Tesla, there are icons of him that exist in some Serbian churches because he was religious, he held to the faith. But you have both, these religious people, many of them Protestants, who blindly accept, whatever they were told when they grew up. But then you also have these skeptics who they have problems with religion, so they gravitate away from it. But then they completely blindly accept, edgy memes on Facebook and such. That's not academic at all. It's very hypocritical to attack religious people for being blind and then just defaulting and accepting anything that a very small range of non-religious scientists tell you. I find that to be kind of ironic almost, because they're doing the same thing to an extent that they say religious people are doing, blindly following a set of ideas. They're doing exactly the same thing. And I don't think we would have this problem to an extent if Protestantism had not infected America, because I find Protestants in general, they don't know a lot about the Church Fathers, and if they did, they wouldn't be Protestant, because the Church Fathers are obviously not Protestant. They're so unequivocally Orthodox that, from the very first fathers that came right after the disciples and were trained and ordained, taught by the apostles themselves, they were unequivocally, undeniably, Orthodox. So Protestants tend not to like them because, they contradict their theological ideas. Now, if there were more Protestants who were well versed in the Fathers and in patristic history, then we would be able to have a lot more intelligent discourse instead of the atheists just coming at these religious Christians in America and be like, oh, you can't prove what you believe in, and the Protestants like, oh, well, you can't prove God doesn't exist, and it's just sort of this almost back and forth of verbal diarrhea on both sides. Now, I'm not saying that religious people are innocent of doing sort of the same thing, of being like, well, you can't prove God doesn't exist, I'm just going to have faith regardless of whether there's proof or not that it's real. But I am also not a fan of these skeptics who blindly follow what science supposedly dictates. I mean, the best thing that they have, like I said, is frickin' TJ, the Amazing Atheist, and Bill Nye, the Science Guy, who is a mechanical engineer. Hell, my father has a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering, and he's one of, the highest paid, he's in, one of the highest paid brackets for the kind of engineering that he does, but he's a biblical creationist. I don't think that that's really connected so much right there. I think some Roman Catholic Pope, I'm not Roman Catholic, but I'm not sure if this is in the CCC and the Catechism, but he essentially anathematized the idea that science and religion were opposed. He spoke out against it, and many Catholics hold the same view. You had Pope Francis, who I guess in the past couple of years said that evolution and Big Bang Theory weren't unchristian theories, and I'm like, well, he's just reiterating what the Catholic Church has already believed for a long time, and everybody was flipping out about it. They're like, oh my goodness, he's such a secularist, he's such a modernist, and I'm like, well, he's not stating anything that the Catholic Church doesn't already believe in that respect. The Catholic Church is not anti-science, and I don't think the Orthodox Church is anti-science either. So, that's about everything. I'm just not so fond of these people who claim to be intelligent skeptics, but they have no real intelligent discourse to give at the end of the day. Have a good evening.